We need to talk about Abu Dhabi 2021. Yes, hello everyone, welcome back to the BaxtyB F1 channel, and today I have decided to open Pandora's box and I'm going to dive straight into Abu Dhabi 2021. And honestly, I understand that some of you will be frustrated about this. You'll see me, you know me as a Mercedes fan, you'll go, really, a Mercedes fan talking about Abu Dhabi 21? It was over a year ago, let it go, dude. And it's like, yeah, I get it. I get that. I get that there's frustration at the fact that we keep bleating on about it, but there's a reason for that. And it's because the sport hasn't moved on from it, I don't feel, in a satisfactory manner. It still hangs over the sport massively, where it gets to the point where you can't, do anything without talking about Abu Dhabi 2021. It's just, that's the way it is. This will probably be one of the very few times that I actually talk about it on the channel. I wanted to just get straight into it, do a direct video on it. I will talk about it at least one more time. And if you've been following the channel, you might see where I'm going with it. But yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to watch the race highlights, the official F1 race highlights. Now, obviously, with copyright, and I don't want to show it on the screen, because if I try and do that, then FOM will just be all over me massively, just copyright claiming everything I do. So I'm going to watch it on mute. Well, no, I'll have the sound on, but you guys won't be able to hear it. So I'm going to watch it. Turn the sound down a little bit. We're going to watch Abu Dhabi 2021, the race highlights, and I'll pause it and sort of talk about key moments, and then we'll get into the ending. So obviously we know the situation. Verstappen got pole the day before, Hamilton was second. They were level on points going into the final race of the 2021 season. And let's go. 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights. Here we go. So Verstappen got to a bad start, as we know, and Hamilton blasted ahead. So gone into turn 1, Hamilton's ahead. Norris has gone wide. So gone through turn 2, heading into turn 3, and this is where things get interesting. Turn 4. Down the straight, obviously this becomes important later on. So he's trying to break the toe. Verstappen's about to make the move. Yeah. Okay, so let's pause it there. So obviously we've gone down the first straight. They've gone into turn 5, which is where, of course, Max passes Lewis for the championship later on. And he's gone for the move, but he's probably just overcooked it slightly and forced Lewis wide. Now, let's actually just roll it on a bit. So they do come together. Hamilton went down the escape road and came out ahead. So Verstappen comes on the radio, says he has to give the position back. Okay, so we watched the incident there. I was a bit quiet there because I was just trying to see what happened. I'll probably edit out the white space. So basically Max has gone into the corner ahead. So at the apex, it's Max's corner, but he has gone in too deep. So he's gone in too deep and he's forced Lewis wide, and Lewis has gone in off the escape road and essentially kept the lead. Now, what the highlights video doesn't show you is the radio exchange between Jonathan Wheatley and Michael Masi. So Jonathan Wheatley basically says, look, he has to give the place back. And Michael Masi says, well, we feel that he gave enough of the advantage he gained back that it's okay. To be honest with you, even as a Lewis Hamilton fan, And I thought it at the time, and now looking at it, being a bit more informed as I am now, I realised that actually that was a horrendous call by Michael Masi. It was terrible. Yeah, Max went deep into the corner, but he was ahead at the apex. It was his corner. So really, Michael Masi did give Lewis a bit of a gift there. Obviously nothing compared to what Max got later on in the race, but, you know, Max was ahead at the apex, it was his corner, and the danger for Lewis would have been he was bent out of shape, and that would have put Perez right on his tail. But Lewis got away with one there. Michael Masi made the call. Obviously, as a Lewis fan, I was happy about it, but yeah, if you think back to Brazil last year, the reason why Max got the penalty was because Lewis was ahead at the apex and Max essentially drove into him. So he got a 5-second penalty for that. On this incident, Max is ahead in the apex and Lewis basically has to bail out of it. He goes down the escape road. He should really give that place back. The stewards saw it differently. I agree. If you watch the highlights along with me, you would have heard Martin Brundle talk about it. And he said that he felt that Max got it absolutely spot on. He was within the white lines. He didn't quite get it spot on because he as I said, he went deep. But yeah, I would agree with a Verstappen fan that would say that Lewis got lucky in that situation, because he did, because that was Max's corner and Lewis got away with one big star there. Okay, lap 14, Verstappen pits. He puts the hard tyres on. Lap 15, this is Hamilton's only stop, and he puts on the hard tyres. That's going to be crucial later on, as we then found out. Lap 20. Yeah, so we're coming up to the Hamilton and Perez battle. So here comes Hamilton on Perez. So yeah, so Hamilton left the door open for Perez. Perez kind of, you know, went back through. Hamilton goes for the undercut, you know, the cut back round. He stays ahead. Perez gets DRS. This fight was so epic. Yeah, kind of takes himself off the racing line a little bit and goes past Hamilton. And all the time, Verstappen is closing on these two. What Checo is doing is he's holding Hamilton up and trying to put him into Verstappen's line. Oh, this was such a great fight. And it was hard, but it was fair. Like, this is where the Minister of Defence kind of came from. So lap 21, they're still going. Verstappen's now 3.7 seconds behind. Into turn 1, Hamilton tried to go around the outside. That wasn't the right move. And Checo's just... yeah, definitely hurting the tyres. Lewis said it was dangerous driving. I'm going to disagree with Lewis there. I don't think it was. It was hard defence. And actually, I'm going to pause it slightly. So this is where Checo perhaps maybe had a point that, you know, he helped Max win the championship. Ultimately, this fight didn't give Max the championship. Lewis was away and gone at this point. But but maybe Checo did have a point. But this fight between the two of them, it was hard. It was fair. I mean, it was as hard a racing as you can get. You know, you're teetering on the line. It's frustrating as a Lewis fan, but that's Formula One, and I think that's what makes this sport so exciting. Is battles like this, that they do toe the line of bad sportsmanship, but it was brilliant racing from both of them, and Perez did the perfect job. I mean, where's Bottas in all of this? Bottas is in P5 behind Tsunoda. You know, Bottas was doing nothing for Lewis at this point. Lewis was on his own. So, all right, let's carry on. So yeah, they're on the run down to turn 5. Verstappen is right there. Hamilton goes past. So yeah, Hamilton's got him on manoeuvres this time. He's just like, yeah, no, you're not coming round. So Hamilton's going to drive round, but that helped Verstappen get. Verstappen was then 1.4 seconds behind Lewis at that point, which was massive for him at that stage. And then obviously Perez is going to jump out the way and let Verstappen through. And here comes the radio comment. Checo's a legend. Yeah. Right, lap 53. Right, lap 53. This is where it all happened. So lap 53, this is when Latifi crashes. Look, I just want to say this. Like, I've paused the video. What happened to Latifi after the race? The way he was treated was completely unacceptable. I get that emotions run high, but what happened with Michael Masi was not Nicholas Latifi's fault, in the sense that, yeah, it wasn't like Latifi was told to crash and then they would give Max the championship. He crashed. He made a mistake, you know. that happens, particularly when it was Latifi. He was prone to it. He was chasing down Mick Schumacher, so there's 5 laps to go at this point. Hamilton's leading, and in comes Verstappen for fresh tyres. I thought Verstappen had a second one. I thought Verstappen stopped again before that, but clearly he didn't. Okay. So he's chasing, and he just loses the rear end. This is an important point, actually. I want to quickly say this, that people were saying, oh, why didn't they throw a red flag out? The reason they didn't throw a red flag out was because Michael Masi made it perfectly clear that if there's a crash at that corner, that's a safety car. So actually, in this instance, Masi correctly and consistently applied his own judgment by saying, yeah, we're gonna go for a safety car. We're not going for a red flag. I mean, I get it. People would ask that question because Michael Masi did like to throw a red flag out, but he said no. At that point, we are not having a red flag. We're having a safety car, and that's exactly what he did. So credit where it's due there for Masi. Yeah, so yeah, here we go, lap 56. So this is the first moment of contention, lap 56. It said that lapped cars will not be allowed to overtake. This is where things got messy. So there were about, 3 or 4, we'll find out in a sec, but there were about 3 or 4 cars between Lewis and Max. There was definitely Vettel. There was definitely Lando Norris, I think, was in there. Lance Stroll was in there. Was it? No, it was Danny Rick and Mick Schumacher. I think it was those guys were kind of stuck. No, it was Alonso. No, it's Norris, Alonso, Ocon. Was Leclerc in there as well? I can't remember, but there were definitely cars between Max and Lewis, or Lewis and Max even. And Alonso was definitely in there because he was saying, look, Max needs to be getting up there for Lewis. I remember hearing that in a later video. But at this stage, Michael Masi says lapped cars will not be allowed to overtake, which was a strange call at the time. I do admit that. But yeah, that was odd. Okay, let's roll it forward. So yes, it was Norris, then the 2 Alpines, then Leclerc, then Vettel. There's Verstappen moaning on the radio. I mean, whatever. Right, so then this is Christian Horner moaning at Masi, saying, give me a second. So at this stage, actually, like, Masi is, he's in control of the situation. Horner's on him. And it's not just Christian Horner. We on the world feed could only hear Christian Horner. But, in that in-depth video that they showed later on after the race when Mercedes dropped the appeal, we heard... Vettel, Alonso, all the teams were screaming at him. So we had 10 teams, 18 drivers, because let's be honest here, the Mercedes drivers were not saying a word. But 9 teams basically saying, look, let's get this race restarted. And Mercedes were the only one, because it was in their best interest for the race not to restart. Here we go. So the infamous moment, race control, lapped cars 4, 14, 31, 16 and 5 to overtake safety car. So just the cars between Hamilton and Verstappen. This is where it all started to go wrong. So this was on lap 57. Now, in that instance, all lapped cars should have been allowed. It shouldn't have been just those cars. Now, obviously, Red Bull made the argument. We'll get into that after I've watched the video. But this was the first moment of controversy, was that it was just those cars that were allowed to overtake. Let's roll the video on. So that instantly puts Verstappen right on Hamilton's tail. He's got fresh tyres. Hamilton is screwed at this point. Now, safety car in this lap as well. So that came up on the board. And if you go back and watch it, even Martin Brundle is kind of going, what? He's like, safety car in this lap, wow. So we're going to have a lap of racing. The first Toto Wolff message. Michael. Oh God, this is painful. So yeah, Verstappen was basically getting in Lewis's business at this point, if you remember, as they're getting ready for the restart. And obviously he's now not allowed to do that. It was basically because of this that... Here we go. So green flag, we're underway. Hamilton comes around the final corner. Oh, God, here we go. Yeah. So Hamilton leads going into the first corner. But it was obvious that Verstappen was going to go past. He had the fresher tyres. I'm watching this at home with my wife and with a mate who was up visiting, and we were just screaming at the television going, what on earth is going on? Here goes, Verstappen goes round at turn 3. Crofty's commentary at this point, by the way, was on point. It was superb. No, Hamilton came back at Verstappen. So Verstappen was a bit naughty on the straight there going down to turn 5 because he actually weaved and you're not allowed to do that. Right, Toto's moaning. Here comes Hamilton again. This was the chance. But Verstappen nailed it. Verstappen, credit to him, he nailed it. And then, yeah, that was it. He was gone at that point. So you can't hear it, but obviously we now know that Lewis was saying, man, this has been manipulated, man. Oh, so Verstappen comes around. The championships can only be won by one, and it's going Dutch. Verstappen won it. Yeah. Right, we'll end it there. We'll end the watching of it there. So, yeah. The most controversial end to a Formula 1 season that will ever happen. And this race still hangs over F1. And this is why I'm talking about it now, because I'm actually still feeling tense watching it now. Like, my heartbeat is going, like, because I knew what was going. It's been going the whole time I've been doing this. And, like, what made this moment so controversial wasn't it? It was because fair play went out the window. That's what made it so controversial. It was, motor racing is inherently unfair. You're always going to have one car that's quicker than the other. That's the nature of the beast. But, like, Hamilton was at such a disadvantage because of the tyres, and the rules hadn't been correctly interpreted by Mazzi, that he incorrectly called in the safety car with only the cars between Hamilton and Verstappen being allowed to pass. Hamilton was screwed. Like, there was no way he was going to keep Verstappen behind unless he forced him off, at which point he would have got a penalty and Verstappen probably would have won the championship anyway. But yeah, and we know that's not in Lewis's nature. He was never going to do that. But fair play went out the window. Yeah, there was no fairness in this at all. Hamilton got screwed royally by Michael Mazzi. And I want to be clear, I don't blame Max Verstappen for any of this. He did his job. He had the opportunity. Deep down, he knows it's not right. I know he does. I've seen it with the way he reacted to Ted Kravitz last year. Deep down, he knew it wasn't right. But, it's... Yeah, like this, it's hard to describe. I mean, if Latifi crashed on lap 53, if he crashed on lap 51, that gives you extra laps to play with. And then if Mazzi clears all of the cars and they do 2 laps of racing and Verstappen beats Hamilton, you know what? That would have sucked, but you deal with it because that would have been fair. That would have been fair. That's motor racing. Yes, he would have had the tyre offset, but everything would have been played out correctly. Whereas the decision that Michael Mazzi made was made in such a way that we got a race, but it was so one-sided because of the fact that, Verstappen had the fresher tyres, and it was a decision that only benefited him. It only benefited Max, and that's what made it so heartbreaking and so controversial, because it just convention went out the window. I've never known a safety car to be called in like that. Yes, there was the incident in Brazil last year when Tsunoda got left out, and that was unacceptable as well. Absolutely. Tsunoda should have been allowed to unlap himself, but he wasn't. And also I do have umbrage with the stewards afterwards, because obviously Mercedes protested. They said, look, this is completely unacceptable. And Red Bull, and this is where I do blame Red Bull, is they went in with almost a pre-prepared argument. They found any does not mean all. So any lapped cars does not mean all lapped cars. That's now been changed to say that it should be all cars, but obviously we saw what happened in Brazil last year, but the stewards bought that argument and the result was allowed to stand. Honestly, the stewards, and I will say this now, were cowards. They were cowards. They should have had the conviction to go, that was not right. We need to do something about it. Now, what they do, I don't know. Do you put it back to lap 57? You do, you could, but I mean, Red Bull would take you to court. Do you cancel the result of the race? Verstappen would be happy, he'd still be world champion. He was leading the championship based on countback. Let's not forget. So, yeah, the stewards were cowards. They bottled it, just like Michael Masi bottled it. They were absolute cowards. And that, this pain hasn't been able to go away. And it will never go away, even if Lewis wins his 8th title. I mean, this is the thing, he was one lap away from breaking the record that nobody thought would ever be broken. He was a lap away from doing it, and he'd earned the right to win that world championship. And instead, Max has won a title that is forever tainted. Yeah, he's gone on and won a 2nd title, but sorry, excuse me. And then, of course, you then throw in what happened last year with the cost cap. That adds extra scrutiny to this, with Red Bull breaching the 2021 cost cap. And this whole thing is just, when fair play goes out the window like that, when one driver is so screwed over by a situation like that. Drivers get screwed over by safety cars all the time, but that's motorsport. Whereas this was a driver getting screwed over by a safety car, being told one thing, then the race director changes his mind and then directly benefits your rival and basically gift wraps him the opportunity to win the world championship. It was ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous. And I think what made it more galling for me as well is that you had the Verstappen fanboys accepting this. Now, deep down, if roles had been reversed, I would have been happy-ish that Lewis would have won an 8th title, but not like this. You want him to win it the right way. Yeah, you can accuse me of saying that's easy to say with hindsight. I know deep down that's how I would have reacted. You want to win the right way. I'm sure there are Lewis Hamilton fans that wouldn't do that, but for me, you have to win the right way. Max didn't do that on that day in Abu Dhabi. He just didn't. Through no fault of his own. That there were situations beyond his control. It was Michael Masi that caused this situation. And it's forever tainted what should have been the happiest moment of his life, winning his first world title. And look, Max had been epic in 2021. He'd been absolutely epic. Like, he had driven a season worthy of winning a world championship, but he didn't deserve to win it after this race when he was level on points with his rival, and he didn't deserve to win it particularly in that fashion. He deserved to win it the right way, and he didn't. And that, but for one driver to be screwed over in that way, and for it there to be no form of any justice either, that's what hurts. Essentially, it was just allowed to happen. The FIA lost their bottle. They weren't prepared to change a result, even though there was a clear breach. And look, Mercedes said that they were intended to appeal that decision by the stewards. They didn't in the end. They decided to drop it. Look, the rumour is that it was at the behest of Lewis to do it. And if that's the case, fair enough. And also there was no way they could win. Why would Mercedes waste money on a legal case that would cost them a lot of money that they pretty much weren't going to win. Let's think of it that way as well. They weren't going to win that case. Because the FIA, there is no court of arbitration for sport. The FIA are judge, jury, executioner. And yeah, this incident will hang over Formula One long after Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton are out. It will always hang over this sport. It might get mellowed if Lewis wins an 8th title. He gets his 8th title moment. But when fair play goes out the window like that, it will never ever be forgotten. Yeah, we've had controversial moments, of course we have, like Lewis winning his first title the way that he did, Senna and Prost in their various crashes, Schumacher and Hill, Schumacher and Villeneuve, but they were organic sporting moments. That was just the drama of the track playing out in front of you. There was no intervention from race stewards, you know, changing the rules on the fly, whereas this was. And that's what makes it controversial, makes it the most controversial moment in Formula One history for me, and it will be a stain on the sport for as long as it exists. Anyway, guys, look, that's enough ranting from me for one video. I appreciate you all for taking the time to watch it with me. Yeah, obviously you haven't been able to see what I can see, but hopefully you've watched along as I've done it. As I said, this is probably going to be one of the few times that I talk about Abu Dhabi 21 in any great length, because, you know, look, it's a story, and I said I wanted to be a storyteller, but this was a story that I think F1 would like to think has gone away, but it just hasn't. And, you know, as I said, there will probably be one more time I talk about it, but that's it. I don't want to bang on about it because it would just be boring. But yeah, this is the one video on this race in detail, and yeah, that's enough from me today. So yeah, if you've enjoyed this video, you want to see more light-hearted or more sort of cheery content, please do hit the subscribe button below. Comment, what do you think of Abu Dhabi 14-15 months on? I will respond to comments as best as I can. And you can find me on Twitter and occasionally on Twitch as well. But until next time, guys, stay safe, and I shall speak to you all very, very soon.